is okay timing for you today?
Works for me.
Wonderful.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Live stream's all set.
Thanks, Julia.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March meeting of the Kansas Early Childhood Recommendations Panel. My name is Cornelia Stevens, and I am the Executive Director of Top Way Learning Centers here in Wichita. I'd like to thank the panel members for serving Kansas's children and families and being here this morning. I know it's going to be a beautiful day outside, and so this will be a good start and kick off to the day. Today's meeting is a remote meeting, and so the meeting materials are posted on the panel meetings on the panel meetings webpage at kschildrenscabinet.org. Panel members will clearly identify themselves when they begin to speak. You can either use the raise hands feature, so that way we don't miss anybody. That would probably be helpful just to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak if they're interested in doing so. So for today's agenda, we will have a welcome, which I've just done. We're going to have the approval of our March agenda, approval of our January meeting minutes. We don't have anybody today for the Kansas Open Forum, but I will give an overview about that if we have anyone that's interested in speaking to the panel. We have updates on the ASQ, the 2024 All In for Kansas Strategic Plan. We have updates from our work groups. We'll talk about the 24-25 panel applications, discuss bright spots in upcoming meetings so panel members start thinking now about amazing things that are happening within your organization or within your communities, and then our meetings will adjourn and we'll break out into our sessions, our work groups. So for the first, we want to approve the March agenda. So Lindsay sent out the March agenda for everyone's review. May I have a motion to approve the March agenda as presented?
This is Donna Chestnut. I move to approve the March agenda.
Perfect. May I have a second?
This is Amy Dean. I second.
Perfect. All those in favor, thumbs up. Any opposed, same sign. Perfect. Lindsay also sent out the January minutes, and we've all had an opportunity to review those, and I don't believe we've had any adjustments or anything to the minutes that were sent out. So may I have an approval of the January minutes as presented?
This is Leanne Neal. I move approval.
Perfect. May I have a second?
This is Natalie McLean. I'll second.
Great. All those in favor, thumbs up. Any opposed, same sign. I will admit that I found myself in an actual in-person meeting saying all in favor, thumbs up. And so, this makes things very interesting, but thank you all for your flexibility with that. So for our Kansas Open Forum, we really encourage Kansans to submit comments through the Kansas Open Forum comment form by 5 o'clock the day preceding each meeting if you'd like to share written comments or to sign up to share verbal comments with the panel during this portion of the meeting. So any Kansan that has information that they would like to share, we do encourage you to do so. We'd love to be able to hear about your thoughts, ideas, things that are happening within your communities that you feel that we should be aware of. So again, you will go and complete the Kansas Open Forum comment form, again, by 5 o'clock the day before each meeting. Thank you for that. So for our first agenda item, we will have Stacy, who is going to give an update on the ASQ.
And I don't think Stacy has been able to join yet, but she did let me know that Natalie would maybe be able to get us started or give some background. Natalie, do you mind? Or we can also switch the order of our presenters if that would be better. I'm open.
I am happy to get us started if we'd like to. Stacy is actually doing an ASQ training right now, and she's going to hop over as soon as she gets a chance. But I can go ahead and get us started.
Thanks, Natalie.
Of course. So Stacy Clark is actually the person that you'll want to talk to when you have questions about ASQ, all things ASQ. If you call here at KSDE, she's been doing lots of work with getting people trained, and we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Hopefully most of us are familiar with the ages and stages questionnaires. They are a little snapshot in time of children's developmental milestones. The ages, there's two different ages and stages that we usually work with. The first one is the ages and stages questionnaire, the third edition. This one addresses 5 developmental areas. It goes over communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social. There's also the Ages and Stages Questionnaires Social Emotional second edition. This one really does a deep dive into social emotional areas, looking at self-regulation, compliance, communication, adaptive behaviors, autonomy, affect and interaction with people. So these screeners are available for children from, I believe, birth up through kindergarten. So the ages and stages questionnaires can identify children that may need supports. These are screeners. The early years, as we know, of life build a foundation for future learning, health, and success. Children's early life experiences deeply affect their future physical, cognitive, emotional, and social development. Parents, providers, and communities can play a critical role in ensuring children have the supports and resources they need to thrive. That's why these questionnaires can be so helpful, because it can give us a flag that maybe early intervention could be an option. Of course, early intervention is most effective and saves us money in the long run, as well as preventing future delays. So we've been gathering some aggregate data from our Kansas ASQ data that we've been collecting. As we look at this data, we want to keep in mind that the ages and stages questionnaires are screening tools. They're not diagnostic. They provide a developmental snapshot of each child at a specific time. And there's Stacy now.
Oh, you guys are running ahead of schedule.
We're quick, Stacy.
Yeah, I thought I was doing so good by being here a little early. So thank you, Natalie.
Of course.
Okay, so looks like we're getting ready to look at the data. Keep in mind that this is aggregate data, and this data comes from our kindergarten readiness snapshot, but also from our Part C infant toddler programs. Okay, next slide. So this is the number of screenings. The ASQ3 is in the gold color, and the ASQ SE2 is in the dark blue color. And we started keeping track of kindergarten readiness and ASQ scores back in 2018. And so you can see over the years, we have been growing. So we're excited about that. This year we went over 50,000, which was our goal. And we're really hoping that there'll be even more in the next few years. Oh, hold on. I'm clicking too many buttons on my screen. Okay, so this then breaks down the ASQs across the state of Kansas in 2023 based on the age range. So like the 72-month screener you can see over here in the dark gray color, there were 11,692 children who took that. And in the 60-month screener, there were 17,069 children. So of course, these chunks are larger because those are our children who are entering kindergarten. And we would like for every kindergartner in the state of Kansas to have their parents complete the ASQ, building those relationships between families and the schools as kindergartners are about to start their 19-year journey with a school district or with multiple school districts. And then you can see it's kind of broken down, this gold color over on the right side. Those are 2 to 26-month screenings. So we have about 8,730 of those. So you can kind of think about it as these are the infants and toddlers in gold. And then these smaller pieces of pie over here on the bottom right are our preschoolers and then our kindergartners. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now on the next ones, we're going to really kind of break it down and look at the results. And this is just aggregate results for 2023. Next slide. So these are the results from 2023, and we'll talk a little bit about what this means. So the first 5 lines are actually the ASQ3 because the scores on the ASQ3 are broken down into the different domains. So communication, gross motor, fine motor, problem solving, and personal social. And then the last one is the ASQ SE2, social emotional one. It just gives 1 score. And so the gold color on here is meets benchmark. This dark blue color is monitoring, which is about 1 standard deviation outside of what would be typically developing. And then the greenish color is actually 2 standard deviations outside of typically developing. So, and we'll have a little time to talk about these after we look at them too. So be thinking about what you're noticing and what questions you might have. Okay, next slide. This is actually the same information. It's just some people like to see it broken down more in numbers as opposed to percentages. So this tells you that like in communication, 43,741 children were meeting benchmark. 4,452 were monitoring, and then how many were at risk. And so if you're familiar with the statistics of it, it can be quite alarming to notice that we have large numbers sometimes that are more than 2 standard deviations, outside of where we would like them to be developing at this point. Next slide. And then because we have so much information about the children who are 5 getting ready to enter kindergarten, I thought I would share that because everything we do leads up to that. And this is kind of the end of when we get their information. So this is the 60-month screening results. And it, again, breaks down the first 5 are the ASQ3. And then the bottom one is the ASQ SE2, that's social emotional. Okay, next slide. It's just the same thing, just showing the numbers of children as opposed to the percentages. You may notice that the ASQ SE2 is a little larger, and that's because we're actually about to look at the results for the 72-month ASQ. So if you're a little older than 5, you do that one. And there isn't two different ASQ SE2s for those two different age ranges. So those children are kind of grouped together in this 60-month ASQ SE2. Okay, next slide. Yep. And so this is a 72-month one. So you'll see at the bottom here, there is not an ASQ SE2. So that's why there were so many on the last one. These are the percentages. Might notice a little difference. So these are children who are closer to 6 or already 6 who are entering kindergarten. The next slide. And this is the same thing, just giving the numbers of children as opposed to the percentages. And next slide. Okay, so what do you think about, what are your thoughts, questions? What else would you like to know about the ASQ? Okay.
Questions from anyone? Okay, looks like we have none.
All right. I feel like I'm off to a good start this Friday morning. I must be explaining things well.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, next slide. We're going to talk about the strategies and things we've been doing across the state to increase the usage of the ASQ and also to have more meaningful usage with it. So next slide. In Southeast Kansas, they actually have recently started their health or community health services are linking now with our online ASQ system, and they're going to be really working to screen every child in Southeast Kansas and keeping up on the screenings and actually doing the monitoring of them over time. And so that's covering 12 counties in Southeast Kansas, and they officially got started on that on, I think it was March 1st. So it's going to be exciting to watch them grow and start using the ASQs and offering services to children who might need them. And then another exciting thing that's happening is at KSDE this year, we have actually taken the ASQ data and matched it with the September 20th enrollment of the kindergartners so that we could give that information back to the school districts and let them know, like, this is what we're showing as the percentage of children entering kindergarten who have taken the ASQ. Because if a school district is interested in doing star recognition, one of the requirements is that they have to have at least 50% of their incoming kindergartners have completed the ASQ. And so this is the first year that KSDE has actually matched those numbers up and given those numbers back to the school districts. So as you can imagine, I've been getting quite a few emails about how do I increase my percentage of ASQ participation. They're like, we try to get parents to do it and they don't want to. So we've been busy around here trying to support schools with that. Also, we're supporting schools in them using the ASQ not just for screening to see what interventions or supports a child might need, but really to use the ASQ to start building relationships with families. So as a kindergartner is coming in to school or even in agencies where they're using the ASQ, it's a really great time to sit down and what if they're not completing the ASQ, they're going over the results. It's a time for parents to really share some information about their child, what their child's doing well, some concerns that they have, and start building positive relationships. So we've really been starting to shift our focus a little bit more at KSDE, not just on gathering the data and looking at it, but also using the tool to build those relationships. And then some areas of our state also are working more on supporting parents as they're keeping track of their ASQs over their child's development. And some of them have been starting to use the developmental screening passport that some of you might be familiar with from a couple of years ago. Next slide. Okay, and so we're going to do the kindergarten readiness snapshot. Oh, we're going to discuss the kindergarten readiness snapshot for this coming year, just in case we have anybody who wants to know more about that. This will be quick. Next slide. So engaging with families is a key part of getting ready for kindergarten. And one of the Kansas State Board of Education outcomes that they're really focused on is kindergarten readiness. So in the elementary schools are supposed to be screening almost all of their incoming kindergartners with the ASQ SE3 and also the ASQ SE2. And they need to administer them as they can start even as early as kindergarten roundup, but if they could get them administered by the 20th, because that's when we do our matching that we do now, where we take the student count from September 20th and match it with our ASQs. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so this is just our contact information. Also, I'll take any questions or can provide any clarifications that you have, but we're always here at the state to support whatever people are doing with ASQ.
Well, Stacy, thank you for leaving one training and coming over to give this presentation. And Natalie, thank you for stepping in during the interim while she was while we were waiting for her to come in. Does anybody have any questions at all regarding the ASQ kindergarten readiness? I see Lee.
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you so much. I was just curious, will you be opening the window for the ASQ in April again, as you have the last couple of years?
Yes, actually this year we opened it March 1st, so it's already open. Yeah, we've noticed more and more school districts are starting to do it at kindergarten roundup. Because then that gives you the opportunity to have those conversations in the spring with families, like, oh, you know, looks like maybe we could do a little work on small motor or gross motor, or maybe you're also like, oh, maybe we need to sit down and have a conversation, see what other supports we can provide for your family.
Any other questions? Okay. If none, thank you, Stacy, for providing the overview and update. It's interesting to see the statewide data. We see our own schools data, but it's interesting to see like everything statewide. And so I appreciate seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me this morning.
Of course. Next, we will have Erica, who is going to give an update, an overview of the 2024 All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan.
Good morning, everyone. Stacy, I don't know if she's still on, but it really warms my heart to see all of the work that has been done on the ASQ. I worked on that for quite some time, so that was really wonderful to hear. So today I am here to talk with you all about the newest update to our All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan. A little bit of background and context. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but really just wanting to set the stage. We got our first PDG grant in 2019 that required a needs assessment and a strategic plan. So that needs assessment happened. This is also when we launched the All In for Kansas Kids brand, and the strategic plan was finalized April 2020, right when everything was happening with COVID. So we have learned a lot since then. We received a implementation grant, which is from 2020 to 2024, and that funded the implementation and work of some of those activities that were laid out in the original strategic plan. And then we received in 2023 another PDG planning grant. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. This required another needs assessment that was finished or finalized in February. Lindsay, if you're able to, you can pop the link for that needs assessment into the chat. Is on the Children's Cabinet website, so you are more than welcome to navigate there and view it. But again, all along, the PDG grant has really moved forward with quite a lot of collaboration between 4 state agencies, which is the Children's Cabinet, KSE, KDHE, and DCF. So we are currently in the process of updating our All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan. And the target date is 2024, this summer. As we said, that needs assessment is available now. The strategic plan itself, the evaluation and the initial writing happened in the fall. Currently, we are going through public feedback sessions. So some of you may have already attended one of these public feedback sessions. And we are also doing an open public comment session or time period. So that's one of the things that I will go over some of the goals very generally. And then we will provide the information for you to be able to give input really as granularly as you would like through the public feedback form. And then finalization and presentation, like I said, is late summer. Okay, so really setting the stage as to what is the plan and the structure of the strategic plan. The purpose of our early childhood strategic plan, the All In for Kansas Kids strategic plan, really is to provide a North Star. It's to make sure that all of the organizations and initiatives and state agencies, we're all kind of rowing our boats in one direction so that that can help guide decision making for leaders at all levels. The document itself is broken up into 3 pillars. The first pillar is ecosystem, the next is workforce, and the final is children and families. You will see that this structure will actually mirror the needs assessment. So the needs assessment was also broken up into these different pillars. The next are from the pillars are each pillar is going to have a set of goals. These are really the objectives and the visions that we would like to see happen in the kind of bucket of each of these pillars. Underneath those goals are going to be actions that have been identified to achieve these goals. I will say that these actions are not the only ones that can happen to achieve these goals. One of the big things that we are asking for with this public feedback period is if you and your organization or your community are doing any actions that you feel like help to achieve these goals and you don't see them reflected in the actions that have been laid out, please, we would love to hear that information so that those actions can be added. And then measures of success. So those are going to be data points that we're going to track on seeing, are we working towards the right things? Are we achieving these goals? And these are data points that are collected across the system. They were also, a lot of the data points were established by the Early Childhood Transition Task Force as well. So as I go through the actual plan, please keep these questions in mind. I will be reviewing the goals. I'll give a few examples of actions under the goals. And then after each pillar, I will kind of pause to see if anyone has any thoughts or comments. Please feel free to add them or to discuss them here, but also if you would like to wait and put them on the public feedback form, that's also good as well. So what actions can be achieved for these goals? Like I said, we would love to hear what's happening that we don't have reflected on the strategic plan. Is there any gaps? So are there any major sections of the early childhood ecosystem that we aren't addressing? Do you see yourself in your work in the strategic plan? If you don't see yourself in your work in the strategic plan, that's really wonderful information for us to know. And we want to know that information. So please put that in the public feedback form so that we can make sure that everyone sees themselves in this strategic plan. And then also, do you see the children and the families that you work with in the plan? So are we addressing those needs that you see that your families currently have? So from there, we'll go ahead and get started. The first pillar is our ecosystem pillar. So our first goal is to strengthen the continuum of early childhood services through widespread collaboration across the state and local partners. This goal really is looking around collaboration between agencies at all levels, and also what is the governance guiding these collaborations. Actions underneath these examples are enhanced coordination across home visiting services, formalized decision-making authority across the continuum to support accountability, transparency, data-informed decision-making for initiatives that work with children and families and the workforce. Our next goal is connect families to the right services at the right time through comprehensive networks of resources and services. So this really is about how is the system set up so that families can easily navigate it and find the services that they need for the specific constellation of services that they are going to use. Actions under this goal are increased uptake of 1-800-CHILDREN as a trusted referral source, and increase the number of community-based referral sources that include early childhood and public-private health care providers for strong collaboration relationships. Our next goal is around data. So measure impact across the continuum of early childhood services over time and use data to reduce disparities and improve outcomes. So the one example of an action around this is identify and adopt quality indicators and targets for the continuum. So data that everybody is looking at to see, is our system really working? And we're talking about family engagement metrics, maternal and child health metrics, family well-being metrics, just as some examples. Also integrate cross-sector data into our Kansas Data Trust as authorized projects. So that's around really utilizing our ECIDs and our early childhood integrated data system. Our fourth goal is promote agreements between public and private sectors to expand early childhood support. So that's really around investing in our early childhood system, whether it be private or community-based, or, for example, in collaboration with school districts. Examples of these goals are publicize family-friendly workplace resources to help promote provider-driven support for families and employer-driven support for families, as well as working with the Department of Commerce to develop language that helps workplaces and employers address the needs that their families are having. Our goal 5 is support policies and efforts to increase capacity, enhance quality, improve services, and contribute to economic security of families. Really, this is around addressing those basic needs, reducing admin barriers, and improving policy and processes so the system is smoother and easier to navigate. Examples of these actions are make it easier for families to access federal and state resources to address basic needs, leverage state matching funds to ensure maximum drawdown of federal resources for the continuum of early child care services. And our sixth goal for the ecosystem pillar is strengthening existing tools and create new resources that help families make informed decisions and experience seamless transition in support of their child's interests, healthy social development, and academic potential. This really is around seamless transition between services and early identification of needed supports, but also family knowledge and choice. So equipping families to know the needed information and allowing them to make the choices, to make their choice that's right for their own family. Examples of actions under this is embed routine screenings, referral practices, and reimbursements where appropriate into programs that directly support young children birth to 5, and then promote inclusive practices to provide accompanying supports for children who are at risk of developmental delay or with developmental delay into care environments, so that special needs children can participate in regular early childhood programming together with their typically developing peers. So those are all of the goals for the ecosystem. I'm going to take a pause here and ask, does anyone have any thoughts, comments around do these goals seem like they're headed in the right direction? Is there some major portion of the ecosystem that we're missing? Thoughts or comments?
Yeah, see none.
All right, well, then we will move forward. Our next pillar that I know a lot is of interest to a lot of organizations and initiatives is our workforce pillar. So our first goal is support strategies to increase the overall compensation of early childhood professionals and improve financial sustainability of programs. So one thing I'll say to start off with this is when I talk about early childhood professionals, a lot of times people are assuming we're just talking about childcare. This really is all inclusive. So it's any professional that is working with that family during their early childhood phase. So it's early intervention, it's home visiting, it's childcare, really even like public health organizations, pediatricians, early childhood mental health. So that's really kind of inclusive of what the early childhood professional means. Some examples of this goal is to establish a compensation ladder with a competitive wage floor and financial incentives to recruit, retain, and support advancement of a diverse workforce, as well as scale promising differential pay programs to increase infant and toddler childcare slots. The next goal is build workforce capacity to provide high quality early childhood services. So this really is around how are we getting new individuals into the workforce with in those early childhood professional slots. Examples of this is to document and distribute information around effective recruiting models. For example, high school career exploration and apprenticeship programs and returnships. Other ones are partner with higher education leaders, including Board of Regents, to create additional degree advancement opportunities for the workforce that align with the early childhood career pathway. So again, working to see how are those creative initiatives and models to gain more workforce capacity really across the board in those early childhood professional positions. Our next goal is really around professional development, so supporting early childhood professionals to help them reach their professional development goals. Examples of these are convening a work group to explore and recommend integration of opportunities between childcare and home visiting professional development services, and increase the number of professional development opportunities that integrate best practices, evidence-based practices for service delivery, specifically focusing on trauma-informed care, maternal and early childhood mental health, behavioral health, special healthcare needs, and early literacy. Our fourth goal is support high quality programming and resources for children in all birth to 5 environments so they can reach appropriate developmental goals. So this is really talking about the quality of experiences and environments that those children are receiving. Examples of this are expanding the links to quality statewide to ensure consistent and high quality early childhood environments, as well as expanding offerings to ensure professionals can build proficiency in the new established Kansas early learning standards, the child care core competencies, and the home visiting core competencies. And so those are all of our workforce goals. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions before we move on to families?
I really appreciate, oh, sorry, this is Kelly France Langford.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Erica. I really appreciate the broad picture here. I feel like sometimes when we are talking about early childhood, it can sometimes get linked directly with childcare. And while that's an important piece, I'm so excited to see that this plan is more inclusive of all early education professionals. And I just want to, and I also can see that it's a really inclusive approach to all children as well. And just continuing that theme. So when you were discussing things like differential pay for infants and toddlers, maybe that is also a place for differential pay for inclusive childcare slots as well.
Thank you, Kelly. That's a really wonderful suggestion. And we are recording this, and my colleague Julia is also making notes of any thoughts or suggestions that come from you all. Anyone else?
Looks like that's it.
All right, well, we can move on to our children and families pillar. So our first one, our first goal is really around family voice and knowledge. So engaging families in experiences to learn and contribute while creating new opportunities to help shape their early childhood system. So this is really around how are we engaging families to productively advocate for themselves? How are we teaching them to advocate for themselves? And also to help them shape the systems that they are using. So some examples of this are connecting or provide resources and connections for family leaders seeking increased advocacy, knowledge, and leadership training. Other examples are turning family input and feedback into action and positive change, and also providing that information back to families so that they can see how their input and feedback has actually changed and helped to form the system. Our next goal is build awareness of the continuum of services to help families make informed decisions in support of their child's interests, healthy development, and learning. So this really is around family choice. How are we making families aware of the resources that they have, and also how are we helping to educate them so that they know how to make the appropriate choice for their family? So some examples of this is distributing information on healthy development, screening across the continuum of services, including family resource centers and partners in the broader ecosystem. So public play spaces, physical health environments, elementary schools, and then ensure early childhood ecosystem websites and online resources prioritize family-friendly language and clear information for families. So how are we making that continuum, the building awareness of that continuum, and helping families to make that right decision? The next one, goal 3, is really around family well-being. So improve child well-being by increasing access to the continuum of services that provide safe, nurturing parent and caregiver relationships and strong families. So some examples of actions of this are collaborating across community services to develop a tiered response approach to help de-escalate an emerging family crisis. Other examples are streamline agreements between KDHE and appropriate entities to support automatic enrollment or referral for our 2 eligible services when families sign up for WIC. So how are we doing some automatic referrals once the family is signing up for WIC and vice versa? So what's that automatic referral look like for signing up for some programs to then get a referral over to WIC to help reduce some of those administrative burdens? Number 4 really is around mental and behavioral health. So how are we prioritizing mental health of families by offering accessible multi-generational services to both children and the parents and caregivers? So examples of this are train early childhood primary care providers across the state to better recognize and efficiently make referrals related to parental mental health or caregiver mental health. Another example is expand mental health services and improve outcomes for new parents through initiatives that support their unique needs during that postpartum transition period. And then our goal number 5 is our last one. And so this really is around very similarly what Kelly was talking about is that inclusion. So how are we ensuring that families have trusted, culturally, linguistically, and diverse ability appropriate experiences across early childhood services? So examples of this is to train early childhood professionals to understand and identify ways to provide linguistically and diverse ability appropriate experiences. And then another example is connect families and children to needed resources by partnering with community mutual aid networks and faith-based organizations. So we would love your input. So really this period that we're in right now, we're doing these presentations and also have that plan, the public input form. I just gave some very brief examples of what the actions are. There are a whole lot more actions under each of the goals. So I really would encourage you to follow the link, look at the holistic plan as it is so far, the draft, and let us know what you think. Are we capturing actions that you and your organizations and communities are doing? Are we not? Do you not see yourself represented? And if not, we need to know that. Do you see your organizations or your profession represented? Do you see your families represented? Is there wording that you think that we should change or to be more inclusive or more family focused? Those different kinds of pieces, we would love to hear and to know. That feedback form is open from now until April 19th. And I guess I'll also pause to say, is there any thoughts or questions on the children and families pillar?
This is Kelly France Langford again. I think this is great. I think it's very comprehensive, inclusive, and I commend everybody that put the work into it.
Thank you, Kelly.
This is Marita Saltuna. I do appreciate the information about family choices. I think that's a very important piece to consider.
Thank you. And if you, like I said, please go in and look, you can specifically just address specific goals in that feedback form. And so if you only want to look at one or two goals that are interests of you, more than welcome to do that.
If no further comments, Eric, I'd like to thank you for providing the overview of the plan. I do definitely see the alignment in the strategic plan and the needs identified through the Early Childhood Transitions Task Force. And especially when we're doing our community engagement sessions, hearing from the community, I can see, a lot of that represented here. And so it's great when you have different documents that are all kind of merging and coming together, and they all are saying the same thing and makes sense. And so
that's what we're hopefully working towards. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for the update and presentation.
Thank you.
All right. So now we have an opportunity to hear from sorry. Okay. So now we have a chance to hear from our work groups. And so the first work group that we'll hear from is Tactic 712, which is local zoning.
Hello, this is Tanya Kane, and I am on this committee. So I will give a quick report out of what we have been doing. We reported last time that we've worked on the local zoning and have a toolkit that is up on it's on the Child Care of Kansas website under our communities tab. This is a virtual toolkit. I think it explained last time that we decided to do virtual because it is easier to change out resources, to add resources, and for communities as to link to other resources that are easy for the websites and to add those. So this toolkit gives information for providers if they're having zoning challenges and for communities. But the other thing it does at the bottom of the toolkit is it has a "Are you ready to join forces" link, and it links community members or providers to a map of the child care community coalitions and the information on how to contact the child care coalitions throughout the state. Those who have given permission to have their information out there on a website. You'll notice it's growing. We're working very hard on trying to keep those. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. So you'll see, I think last time there wasn't very many, and this time it's got a lot more blue and a lot more coalitions. So we'll continue to keep that growing because we want to make sure communities know that they know that a community member knows they're not alone if they want to change a zoning, and providers know they don't have to go after this alone if they're having a challenge. They should have hopefully a coalition that can help them. So that is live. It's up there. And I will get the link to Lindsay here in just a second when I'm not trying to talk and do two things at once, and she'll put it in the chat. The other thing we are excited is we are working on the second part of this, which is the HOA association challenges that sometimes childcare providers have. So we've just got the survey put together. We will be sending that out to childcare providers so that they can give input. This is the same process we did for the zoning. So we will take their input, accumulate that, get all the information, and then we will be working on the same process. A toolkit resource information, we'll just have to see how that information comes back in so that we can then decide what's the best way to assist communities, childcare providers in the HOA challenges they have. So stay tuned. That survey should go out hopefully next week, if not within the next couple of weeks, to childcare providers so we can start gathering that information and see where that is at. Anybody on the committee that I missed, please feel free to jump in.
You did good, Tanya.
All right, very good. Next, we'll hear from Strategy 4.2 on family-friendly workplaces.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dana. I'm with Kansas Children's Service League. I will attempt to be brief. Just anybody that knows me knows that's sometimes kind of difficult. So I do want to say it's exciting listening to Erica talk through the pillars, and maybe it's just me, but each one I was like, oh, there I am. That's where I fit. And then we go to the next one. It's like, no, there I am too. So it evidently we're doing good work. So so we've met, and again it was great to note that family friendly workplaces are mentioned in that first pillar, and we're working towards a number of recommendations. Probably the biggest thing that we've talked about a couple of times is we have two initiatives that are very similar. We've really crafted how those two can work together, the family friendly Kansas and the family forward Kansas. And so we're really fine tuning that, honing that down to what that looks like as we intentionally collaborate and work together on that. We're working with Department of Commerce to start to spread the word about those initiatives through the website and through other collateral material, including a recognition program that is in place and ready to launch, and also a social media campaign, kind of two-pronged, promoting family-friendly workplace work, and then on the other side of that, for employers that have been recognized as a family-friendly workplace, we will be able to provide a toolkit for them to promote that internally also. So that is where we are at, and then I would imagine by the time we meet as a large group again, we will probably have an ask of the larger group, but stay tuned for more.
Very good. Thank you, Dana. Tactic 615 for recruitment and retention.
Hi, this is Amy Gottschammer. I'm representing 6.1.5, and we have continued moving forward with our plan for an online toolkit for our how we would address the challenges to recruitment and retention. Most of our discussions have been around making sure we're not reinventing the wheel, looking around to make sure that others haven't already done some of this work somewhere else. We've identified some childcare aware work that was that looked helpful in some arenas, and some other work that we also felt would be helpful. It's kind of hit or miss, where we're finding, well, this is interesting and this is interesting and this is interesting, but only to certain audiences. And what we're thinking of is something that is broader, that's going to be a one-stop shop for many audiences. We spoke with Patty over at Casito and talked a little bit about maybe would it make sense for it to live over at the registry in terms of just where it would be hosted. But then I wasn't as sure about it, because it's something that would require a login, and then it wouldn't be as available to all parties. It would be limited more to providers and other early childhood people, not so much those that are maybe involved in advocacy or local coalitions or community groups. So we're also thinking about where would this live, and that maybe the people that have done this other work, we bring in links and connections from their work to our space, so that our space is the home that webs or links out to what their work is doing, and helps provide more promotion of the work that they've already done in just yet another location. So still trying to pull all of that together, and I think that's about where we are at the moment. So unless I'm forgetting anything, anybody else feel free to come off mute, but that's where we are at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, and last we will hear from Tactic 611 on recommendations to increase compensation and benefits.
Good morning. This is Heather Schroberger for the 6.11 work group. And we have been doing a couple of things. So we've continued our discussion with the Watershed Consulting Group, which is doing a compensation study and looking at early childhood professional compensation recommendations. So we were able to have some additional discussion with them following the January panel meeting and continue assuring that our movement forward is in alignment and in consideration of those. The other thing we've done, Lindsay has a slide she's going to share. We have I would call it a working definition of early childhood professional compensation to assure that we as a work group are thinking broadly about all of the components of compensation, not just salary, but additional areas where we could consider recommendations to move compensation forward. So that working definition we have is that competitive compensation and benefits for Kansas early childhood professionals includes direct compensation and financial relief strategies reflective of both experience and credentials, aligned with the broader educational system, tied to a clear career pathway with opportunities for advancement, and backed by robust and sustainable public and private revenue streams. So certainly if anybody has any feedback or input on that definition, we would welcome that. You could share that with me directly, or you could funnel that to our work group via Lindsay. But we are still in the looking forward and trying to figure out where we can best make recommendations to move this conversation ahead. So if anyone else from the work group wants to add anything to that, you're welcome to, but that's where we are with our work.
Okay, Heather, thank you for that update. No questions for Heather or anybody on any of the panels. It's great to be able to hear all of the movement that has happened and the work that's happening within each one of the work groups. See that we're all very zoned in on our areas, but also see how they all interconnect. And they all support the greater good for Kansas families. And so thank you all for the work that's happening. All right, so the 24-25 application process for panel members is about to launch. And so it's open to any Kansan that is interested in serving on the Kansas Early Childhood Advisory Council, known as the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel. So the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel serves as an advisory council for the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. And so that's what that means. Am I making that up? No, that's right. And so application period is going to be from April 1st through May 3rd. It is a one-year term, and that term begins on July 1st and ends June 30th of 2025. Panel members, we do encourage you to reapply and also share this with others. So if there's other people in your communities that you feel would actually be a benefit to the panel and that would have a voice, that are interested in the work that's happening, on a statewide basis to help improve services to Kansas children and families, we do encourage you to share this information so that we can, add more members if we have people that are interested. Please visit the Children's Cabinet Trust Fund website at kschildrenscabinet.org to learn more about the application. And again, April 1st is when the applications will begin. And existing panel members, we do have to reapply each year. Next, we have bright spots. So in the beginning of our meeting, you were tasked with thinking about amazing things that are happening within your organization or your community. And so this is your time to shine and talk to us about all of the bright spots and great things that are happening. So who would like to go first?
I was not in charge, but I was on the committee, and I know Emily Barnes is not here today, so I would hate for it to go unnoticed, but we had a fabulous early learning day, March 6th, up at the state capitol. Lots of energy, lots of excitement. So that was definitely a bright spot for Kansas and all of the early childhood field. So
very good. Thank you, Tanya. Aldana.
Would second what Tonya said, but my actually bright spot I wanted to bring out is our Raising JoCo Coalition, our brand new childcare coalition in Johnson County, is really getting up and running, and we are hosting our first conference on April the 6th. So we already have over 80 registrants, and so really excited about that. Plus some of the other initiatives we're already getting up and going, working with our schools. Some of the things that were indicated in the strategic plan, it's kind of like the other gentleman said, like, yeah, we fit there and we fit there. So I'm really excited about our coalition and all the work I think we're going to be able to accomplish.
Very good, exciting. Martis.
Good morning. I'd like to invite you all to our preschool enrichment program open house at the Kansas State School for the Blind on April 12th. And we also have a blind soccer pitch ribbon cutting on April 5th. And that is very exciting. It's a grant that we received from the Sporting KC. So it's the first blind soccer pitch in Midwest. So join us.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Any other bright spots?
I have one, Cornelia.
Go for it.
Tabitha Rossbroy, Kansas Parent Information Resource Center. My team and I have all been selected to attend a week of learning this summer at Harvard for Harvard's family engagement session. We're going to be learning from some experts, and we're really excited to bring back what we've learned to Kansas.
Very exciting. Fun trip, and looking forward to hearing the information that you can bring back. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Miss Lindsay.
Thanks for letting me jump in really quick, but I just wanted to share a quick reminder that I think is really exciting. The Stellar Insights Early Childhood Data webinar is coming up on March 28th. I shared that information with you all and a link to a post that I made on the panel hub. But I just wanted to make sure to point that out since they joined the panel not too long ago to share about the early childhood data dashboard. So this is a chance to learn more and connect with others around data related to kids in Kansas. And I just wanted to make sure to highlight that because it's coming up soon and encourage you all to participate if you are interested. Again, you can find more information and resources on the panel hub. There's a post. You can click on the link to register.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any other bright spots or information that you would like to share? Okay, if none, we would like to remind you that if you have recommendations for items to be added to the agenda, there is an agenda resource form that is available on Panel's SharePoint Hub. That link is actually sent out to us from Lindsay, and but it's also on the Kansas Children's Cabinet website. Yes, yep. And so you can go there, and again, if you have anything that you think would be meaningful, that would be useful information for us to be able to discuss and review during our panel meetings. Please remember to, add the items to that document so that way Lindsay can do her busy work and reach out and, find presenters or whatnot to share that information with us. In terms of upcoming meetings, the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund has their meeting on April the 5th from 9 to 12. It is live streamed on the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund YouTube page. Our next Early Child Recommendations panel meeting is on April 19th at 9 o'clock. With that being said, we are going to adjourn this portion of our meeting. It is 10:07, so let's just say it is 10:10. And we're going to have a 10-minute break. So go get some coffee, get some snacks, reply to a couple of emails, and at 10:20, we will come back and you'll come back to this link and then go out into your breakout rooms or whatnot so that we can have our work group sessions. So you guys, I will see you back in technically 13 minutes, but at 10:20. So take care.